Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Kelly Martin. Kelly is a working mom with three girls. She teaches pre-K primarily for students with disabilities, and at night she is a writer of haunted house stories. So far, Kelly has had over 40 books published, both traditionally and independently, over the last 10 years. All right, welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And one of the questions I always like to start with is this show came from my latest best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And I wrote it right before the pandemic happened.
Oh gosh.
So I did experience every situation and more than I could ever imagine. And so the story is going from rock bottom back into action. So I like to start off with asking if you have a time in your business or personal life where you hit a tough situation and how you got back on track.
I think for any writer, especially, that we always hit those highs and lows, no matter what. Like sometimes we could, I don't know, just just have the imposter syndrome or think, oh no, this book is not going the way I want it to go, or it didn't sell like I thought it would, or different things like that. And I know for me, about, oh gosh, 5 years ago, things weren't going exactly how I would have liked it to go in my books. So, or in my author career. And, three kids and a full time job. And I mean, writing's a full time job anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add everything else on top of it. And sometimes you're like, why am I even doing this to myself,
Mm-hmm.
But then I it was kind of like a crossroads. When I was trying to figure out why I was doing it. Originally, I started writing because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mama. That was the goal. I was going to try to make enough to stay home with the girls. That never exactly happened. So, but, I mean, I make enough to pay, some pretty good bills, but not enough and not consistently to take, my teaching salary.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, at the time, I was like, okay, I was getting burned out. Um, I was, I was, I was working 8 hours a day and then coming home in between. I mean, working 8 hours at night, basically. I didn't sleep very much. I was putting out about 8 books a year, actually.
Mm.
And, the sales were coming,
Right.
but not as consistently as it needed to be. So I was like, okay, why am I even doing this? Um, so I thought the crossroads I was thinking about was, okay, I can look and find a genre that I might not like as much,
Mm-hmm.
but write it and maybe make enough for the income goal, because that was the original goal. Or I can write stuff that I want to write. Not that I wouldn't like that, but things that I'm more passionate about writing, things I love to read, and think of it more as a thing for me. And that took the money pressure off of it. That took the, I don't know, just all the pressure that you put on yourself. And way back when I started, I don't know when you started writing, but when I first started, they said to write in every genre you could get into, to spread out, as it were. So when I first started, my first book was a Christian fiction. My second book, my first two or three were Christian fiction. Then I wrote contemporary. Then I wrote Regency. Then I wrote paranormal, and then I wrote a YA mystery. To I don't know, throw everything out there, because that's not what they say now. Now they're like, stick with one thing, stick with your brand, and go with it.
Huh.
But at the time, I had all these books and all these different genres and no specific branding. And in 2016, I was burned out and I was like, I'm done. I'm never writing another word. And I have a friend, and I think that's one of the biggest and the best advice that I can give anybody is have somebody in your field that understands. She knew what I was going through. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. It was been so easy. Well, I say it would be easy to quit. I said I was going to quit. I said I was never going to write another word. I was just going to, be a mama and a teacher, which is fine. I love both. And I was going to, boom. And she was like, and I was telling her about it. She was like, okay. So why did you start writing in the first place? And I was like, well, to make money and stay home. And she was like, okay, no, why did you pick writing? Because there's so many other things you can do, to stay home and make money and probably make more money than being a writer. And I was like, well, I like telling stories. I love writing stories. I just like the process of writing. I think it's fun. Like now when I get up in the morning, the very first thing I do is write for before I go to work because I have found that it's my decompressor. I guess it's my way to chill out, which is weird. The thing that caused so much stress before, now it's my way to relax. But that's how it worked out that I figured out it was my way to relax. And she was like, okay, you obviously like to do this. You are good at it.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that made these expectations. Nobody else made them for you. I'm an indie published author.
Mm-hmm.
I made it myself. I don't have I do have traditionally published books, but I don't have any of the big five, publishers being like, you need to do this, this, and this. It was all things I put on myself. She was like, what genre do you like the most? And I got to look and I was like, every one of my books, even the ones that aren't paranormal, have paranormal in it. And I was like, oh, okay. I
Mm-hmm.
think I found a theme here. And she was like, just focus. And she was like, now, why do you like to do it? And I was like, well, of course, as a teacher and a mama and a wife, I have people, depending on me quite a bit. But when I'm writing, it's like your brain can be free.
Mm.
And when I tried to not do it, like I tried for like a week. I know it sounds like just a week, but I tried for a week and I was miserable
Wow.
because I couldn't just get out of the world, I guess, for just a little bit. So she was like, okay, she helped me redefine my why. I thought my why originally, I guess, was
Mm-hmm.
to do that. But the reason I picked writing was because I love telling stories. I love the process of writing. I love the people in writing. Just love publishing in general. And to not do that made me so sad. So I think that conversation with her, and I've told her that many times since then. I was like, you know what? I'm so glad that she didn't not let me quit,
Mm.
but she talked to me and she let me get my feelings out. It wasn't that I was upset with writing. It was that I was burned out with my own expectations that I had placed way too high.
Oh.
And once I redefined what I wanted, why I started writing paranormal books, just plain paranormal books, straight through. Didn't try to do the whole, how when you have writer courses or whatever, and they're like, you need to do this and you need to do that. And of course, you do it because they told you to. And I stopped doing all that. I started trying to do what I felt was best for me and my books. And I started writing ghost stories. And I love haunted houses. Books are my favorite. Started doing that in 2016. Um, and last year I made more than I've ever made. And just,
Wow.
yeah. And it was just, if I'd quit, I would have never had that. And
Mm.
not even just the money part. now that I write middle grade, some of the kids at school, my books are in the library at school, which is the coolest thing. So I'll be walking down the hall and there's a kid with my book,
Wow.
just
That-
walking down the hall with it, and they'll like stop and they'll be like, Miss Kelly. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's great. So it seems for those listening in that one of the things that really worked for you is just going back to your own truth, your own authentic self, and not listening to everybody else's opinion of how it should be. And that seems to be something that's helpful and healing for everyone. And you think about all those beautiful children you work with, they're in their truth. They haven't unlearned how to be free and how to express themselves and share their personality. If they want to sing, they sing. They might not be in tune, but they're so happy that it's still beautiful. And so it's that freedom of expression that is so important. And right now, more than anything during this 12 months, to be honest, to have open conversations with family, friends, your children at home, and talk about things in an honest way, in an authentic way, is really going to help settle the children, keep everybody in a happy, peaceful space. Because, our kids, like you think about your classroom, they they will know if it's not the truth. If you are trying to make it nice and it's really not, and you're really concerned, they will feel it. They will know. They are like little lie detectors. They know everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they like to tell you too.
Yes, and they are the toughest critics. I remember I actually taught at a Waldorf school and a Montessori school, so I did both
Oh,
of teaching over the years, and I have 6 of my own children now grown. I fostered to adopted three from birth, and so this big family. And it was so interesting because those kids in the classroom, they would let me know if I was off or if something didn't feel right that they heard or whatever. They really did. And so they were my greatest teachers, really. I was teaching them, but they were teaching me
oh
different
yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, we had a lesson today on there's this book called The Boy Who Wanted to Be a Frog. And in the book, the boy wanted to be the frog and the frog wanted to be the boy. So Mother Nature switched them. And then they found out, that the grass is not always greener, and, be happy with who you are. And as a little exercise, we did talk about, that you need to, you're the best self you are. You don't try to be somebody else. But as a fun little thing, because they're 4 and 5, I was like, okay, if you could switch with any animal, what would you switch with? And of course, they were saying dogs and cats. And there was this one little person, and she said, I don't want to change. I like myself. And I was like, what?
That's
That's the
perfect.
best thing ever.
That is so wonderful at a young age to feel
Yes.
that and know that. That is incredible. Now I'm wondering, what is it about the ghost stories? What attracted you to that? Did you live in a haunted house, or what brought you to that genre? What was that?
I still live in a haunted house. I don't know, actually. I don't know what the root cause of this was. I do know that it's kind of weird when you're like, most people say my job and my writing don't really seem to mesh, but I think it does. I think especially like my middle grade books, the big point of it is dealing with fear.
Mm,
And everybody's afraid of something. I mean, and I always like, my favorite part of horror is is taking internal fears and making it external. Because you can't really, you're afraid. If you're afraid of spiders, you're afraid of spiders, but you probably can't describe why. You just are. So if you can take that and make it external, especially for kids, I think it's a great way to work through different things that might be, going on in your life and their life. But I have always loved old houses and ghost stories. Across the road from me, there used to be a huge,
Hmm.
like I mentioned, it was like a Victorian looking old house. It was abandoned. They turned it into a haunted house one year and then they tore it down. But I love that house,
Wow.
and I love going abandoned house hunting and taking pictures and trying to figure out what happened, what happened in the house, why they were abandoned. Some
Mm,
places you go in and the curtains are still up. Like,
wow.
why? So
Hmm.
that's what I love going to see. And I think that why is what I like to write stories about. Like, why did something happen? Why did a house become empty? Why did a house become haunted or possibly haunted? What led to it? I just love the why questions, and I like trying to answer them.
That,
And
yeah,
haunted houses.
that is incredible. And I mean, just writing about facing your fears and getting that fear out when you can't express it, that whole concept during the last 12 months where there was so much fear around this pandemic, this global pandemic, universal pause, whatever you want to call it, and children weren't even allowed to go to school the whole time and all this crazy stuff. There must have been a lot of fear for your students, and I know for most, even my young adult children that are grown now, there were times where it was kind of scary for all of us. We didn't know what was next.
Yeah, my youngest, my kids are 15, 14, and 10. And my youngest still has the hardest time with it. Like, she willingly gets a mask. Like,
Mm,
we were going to school today and she's like, Mom, I don't have a mask.
uh,
And I was like, it's okay. We have one. We will
yeah,
get you one. And she don't like going places without it.
uh-huh.
My older ones are little, they don't have to wear them at school, but they have them with them,
Oh,
in case they need them. But yeah, they were really scared,
mhm.
especially when it first started. Um, and especially they're very, very close with their Nana, and Nana's 79. That's my mama. So they were afraid to get really close to her. Like, they've always been really, climbing Nana's lap, even my oldest. And
Oh,
then they were afraid that they would bring something home to Nana and she would get sick.
right.
So, like, it's like, that's a lot. And then you have the little ones, like in my room, and it was so sad at the beginning of the school year. Like, we've been coming straight through. We had like guidelines we had to, do, and we had like a hybrid schedule. But when, at the end of the day, when, it's dismissal and you just have a few kids around, and taking, they would be playing teacher. And part of their playing teacher was taking their temperatures, because that's what we had to do like 3 times a day,
Oh my
was
god.
take their temperatures and do like little wellness checks on them, and that's how they played.
Mm.
And I was like, "My heart."
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, but it's normal. It's kind of sad, but it's normal to them because they've never been in school and this is what you do at school. So it is normal to them. My older ones and me, it was hard. I remember the very first time I went to Walmart
Yeah.
when everything happened and everything shut down. I think we shut down the 13th, March 13th. It's funny how you remember that. The
Mhm.
last day of school before shutdown was March 13th. And on the 15th, I had to go to Walmart and I was terrified. Like, I called my mama. I'm 40 years old and called my mama. And I was like, Mama,
Oh.
I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. She was like, gonna have to. You gotta face your fears. I was like, oh man. So I went in and I think I held my breath the whole time.
Yes, that is
But
interesting how that happened so fast.
mhm,
We just my daughter and I, she was home. She's the only one that's really home because the dorms shut down, and she moved back home, and it was just, do we really need to get something at the store, or can we
mhm.
without, or order it online, or
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we would do. And my girls I didn't take them to the store. Oh gosh, 3 or 4 months.
hmm
Like they didn't go in. And I think over Christmas break, the only place they had been was home and school. And they didn't go to school very often. It was just a hybrid schedule. And one of the things they wanted to do, they wanted to go to Walmart or they wanted to go to a store. That's all they really wanted was just like they didn't need a big vacation. They just wanted to go to the store.
something normal.
Yes, something normal.
Mhm. Wow. So now, did you ever in your life or in your past have an experience with the haunted houses, or with ghosts or loved ones that stay with you, or anything like that, that
Ah,
kind of brought you a little bit more connection with that genre, or
oh yeah. Yeah, we've had a few instances. There was a few happen when I was, at home. But when we moved to this house after I got married, we lived here about 18 years, almost 18 years. Um, we didn't hear anything for a while. Like, it was pretty steady. Well, then one day um my we were getting ready for school, and my oldest daughter's redheaded, and my middle daughter used to have really blonde curly hair.
Mhm.
And I told them to go get in the car so we could go to school. And I was finishing up getting ready in the bathroom, and my middle daughter came bouncing by, and her little curls were bouncing. And I was like, Chloe, go get in the car. And she never went running by the bathroom door. And I was like, Chloe. And I went and looked, and she was in the car the whole time. So it was just,
Wow.
yeah. So my husband didn't exactly believe me. Bless him. He did. I mean, I don't blame him.
Right.
So I bet it was a year later. I didn't like nothing really happened. And I was like, okay, we just called it the ghost. People would see things, but it was just the ghost. And Brandon didn't really believe me. That's my husband. And we were in the kitchen, and we have an open concept. Like it's the kitchen and the living room and then the hall. And then there's
Mhm.
steps that go up to the attic. I live in like over 100-year-old farmhouse. So
Oh,
there
wow.
you go. Little context there.
Yeah.
So, my Chloe had done something, I can't remember what. She was in the living room, and my other two girls were in their bedroom, which is down the hall. And I was facing this way. My husband was facing this way, and he's very tall, so he could see over my head because I'm very short. And he said, I told her to stay in the living room. I
hmm
said, she's in the living room. And she poked her head out. She's like, I'm right here. And he's like, no, I saw her running down the hall. And so I was like, you saw her. You saw the
Yeah.
ghost.
Uh-huh.
So he was like, nuh-uh, nuh-uh. So he went in the girls' room, and they were like, we're right here. And he was like, hey. So then
Mm.
he started talking to people. And then we bought this house from my cousin. And then we were like, hey, did anything weird happen? She's like, oh, yeah, I just didn't want to tell you because I was afraid you wouldn't buy the house. But yeah, my kids saw things all the time. My daughter named the ghost. And I was like, thanks. Appreciate that. So
Yes.
there's nothing like terribly scary. I mean, I guess that would be scary, but she doesn't seem mean or anything. We see her, every once in a while. Every once in a while, the TV will get really loud, or the cats will be staring at the door or something. Because
Mm.
like now we just blame the cats for everything. If we hear a noise or we kind of see something like around, we're like, oh, it's totally
There.
the cat.
Mhm.
We're just used to it now.
And there is different energies. I think that, sometimes it's a loved one's left us and they're still kind of taking watch over, or you'll get a message or a dream, or something will show up. I had a dream once, and I went out to dinner with my friends, we went to Cheesecake Factory, and I said I had this weird dream that my grandma who passed away came over to my house on the hill. I had this little cabin that I would do Airbnb, I would rent it out, and I was there, and we had a slumber party, and we had these great stories we told in the dream. And then all of a sudden she said, "Look out." And I looked out every window and there was fire. Well, I told them that at dinner, two of them as my witness. And do you know that next day we had the Woolsey fire, and that cabin was on Woolsey Canyon, and it was
Oh,
surrounded by fire. And that night I was going to go clean. And usually when I cleaned, sometimes I would just spend the night there.
yeah.
Well, just clean everything and then just stay so I wouldn't have to drive down the canyon at night. And I said, I'll just skip going there tonight because that was such a weird dream. And
Oh,
and I thought, oh, grandma loves me so
yeah,
much.
right?
She reached
Oh my
out for
goodness.
do not go there. And I just happened to tell them, and they're like, yeah, if grandma ever gives you a dream about me, you give me a call. so so sometimes I don't know what the how do I know? How did I know? Or how did she know? And that there was never a fire there before. Now we've had a lot of fires in California, but
Yeah.
that was really a surprise. And so sometimes it's a good thing, and other times that canyon home, there was another canyon home. I had a couple of little ones, and that you would go there and things would fall in the middle of the night, like big things would just fall off.
Mhm.
And it was I didn't like staying there that much.
No,
And I
I don't doubt it.
I found out later that there was a lot of energy. There was a lot
Yeah.
of stuff, and I found out later that there was Native American burial grounds that they built over and didn't disclose to the people. And it was like, oh, well, maybe there's something with it. And maybe, and we did a whole bunch of prayers and meditations
Yeah.
and okay, we're sorry. Well, hey, we're just borrowing this and,
Yeah.
whatever. But it was more energy than I felt anywhere else.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It's
those,
funny how you can feel it because sometimes here, like we can go a long time and not even feel,
right.
anything. And then every once in a while it kind of gets ramped up and you're like, okay.
Hmm. Yeah. Or is it a message? Is there a message in it? Is there something they want us to know?
Right.
Something they're warning us about, or telling us that
Mhm.
through. So I would love to hear about some of the books. Like maybe you have so many of them. What are your favorite or
Oh gosh.
what are your favorite?
That's so hard. I think they all have a special place for, different reasons. My very first book was Crossing the Deep, and that I think that will always be my, very special place because one, to see if I could do it, and two, it was a challenge, and I got a publisher with it, and it was just a big thing to go through the first time. Um, Dark and Deadly Things was the book series that I wrote in 2016 that was after the big epiphany moment. So that will always have a really big place. Um, I like that one.
Uh-huh.
The very first line of that book is let's see, how does it go? It's a strange feeling in life to watch your ghost hunter dad live on TV while eating popcorn next to your dead mother.
Mm.
She's a ghost, so it's okay. But I love that series. It's a 5-book series. It has a lot of grief and working through things and trying to get through revenge and maybe not getting revenge. So I
Mm.
really like that one. Um, Oh my gosh. What Rachel did is my very first middle grade book. So that was a big moment when I saw it in the library at school. That was huge. When I see kids walking down the hall with it, like that's amazing. Especially when they see me and they're like, "Oh, that's me." That was cool. That that was very yeah,
Mm.
but they all have a big place. Heartless, the Heartless series. I never intended for that to be a series. I never expected it to be a romance. I never wanted it to be a romance. I was actually really proud in the first book that it was not a romance. And
Huh.
it turned into a 4-book romance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you just never know what's gonna happen. The readers fell in love with this one guy that I didn't think that they would fall in love with, and they did, and then I did, and things happen.
Hmm. So a romance happened, a
It
four
did.
series romance, and this was for the middle grades. Or
No, that Heartless was a young adult. Well, she was 18, 19,
okay.
paranormal.
Oh, and so there was a romantic paranormal situation.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
tell me a little bit more about that. What?
Oh my gosh. Oh. Heartless is probably one of my more stranger books, which says a lot, I suppose. It's about a girl who is being tortured
Hmm,
every night in her dreams by this demon named Heart. And it come to, I don't know if I should tell you how it comes to find out because you wouldn't read it then.
right.
But I can tell you this part. It's been out for a while, spoilers. But it turns out that the guy that was doing the torturing, he was only like he was to get revenge on his brother, who he thought had done something to him, but they were all manipulated by this big thing.
Hmm,
And it turned into this whole thing where he reminds me of Bucky Barnes,
mhm,
from the Winter Soldier.
mhm.
He didn't like it start off that way, but he did these things, but it wasn't really him doing it. So that's kind of what makes me think what makes me think of.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. So that was for like young adults.
Yeah, it was she was it could have been new adult.
Uh-huh.
It was more she was 18, 19 when the stories happened, so
Mm. So now what was it like for you as a young girl growing up? Did you write a lot? Did you not write a lot? What did that show up really at a young age?
when I was in 6th grade, my absolute favorite assignment was when my 6th grade teacher, Miss Radke, shout out Miss Radke, she, on our spelling words, we had 20 spelling words, and we had to pick 10 of those words and write a story.
Mm.
And it was my absolute favorite thing to do ever. I think we did it on Mondays. No, we did definitions on Mondays. I don't know why I remember that.
Well,
But I think we did it on Wednesdays. And
uh-huh.
it was my favorite thing because you got to have all the words didn't have anything to do with each other except they had like the same spelling rules. They don't even have spelling anymore. But we picked those words. You had to write a 1-page story, and we got to read it in front of the class. And it was the greatest thing ever. So I loved it. That was kind of how I started writing, or falling in love with it. And I like the challenge part of that one. And
Mm.
then I remember when I was a senior in high school, I wrote I wrote this story in English called "Being Short in a Tall World."
Mm, I love that.
And my English teacher showed it to my principal because she loved it so much, and she said that I could be a writer. And
Mm,
I was like, that would be.
very cool.
So then my college years was spent in writing fan fiction, and then I decided in 2017 that I was going to try to make my own, and I've been doing it ever since.
Incredible, incredible. I love the one about being in the tall world. It reminds me of my youngest son, who actually he passed away last year. He had a heart condition,
I'm
so
sorry.
too, it was very hard for us, but we, some things you can't change. And when he was really young, he was super short. And the grandparents would always be like, maybe you should get growth hormones, or do they pick on him? And I was like, no, he's like the most popular kid wherever he goes. and and it was funny because I asked him when he was older, I said, did it ever bother you that you were short. And he said, no, I always thought everybody was oddly tall. It just reminds
Yes,
me.
I get that.
Uh-huh.
I get that. It's not your fault. It's
Yeah.
everybody else's.
Hey, okay. And I loved them anyway, even if they were tall. It's okay. Not a problem.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. So that's something that when you think about things like that, that's so important to point out to kids. And when they have those revelations on their own, that was so cool. It's like that he had that self-esteem where he was okay. He was like that young girl you mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm okay with who I am.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be something else. I'm good with who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be so nice to be like.
Yes, yes, it's important. And that's something that how do we combat that? There's so many things that go on in school, at home with bullying, with the kids end up picking on each other, this and that. How do you work with that as a teacher?
Oh gosh. The good thing is mine are so young
Mhm.
that I
They're not
I've
there.
never had anybody pick on anybody
Oh,
purposely.
nice.
Like they've never been just intentionally mean.
Nice.
Now they've done things that the other people come across as mean. So we start with the whole we ask them, why you possibly said that.
Mhm.
If they said something like, I don't know, nobody's ever said this, but for example, will be like, well, I said he stunk because, he
Yeah.
smells, which is that's not something, but as an example. And we're like, okay, would you want somebody to say that to you? No. How would you feel if somebody said that to you? Bad.
Mhm.
Would you want to be friends with somebody? Do you want this person to be your friend? We don't say bad things to people
Right.
that we want to be our friends
Mhm.
or that we don't want to be our friends. But if it's going to hurt your feelings, don't say it to somebody else. The problem with 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds sometimes is they're very honest and very truthful, and sometimes they don't mean what they say to be bad.
Mhm.
It just comes out that way.
Right.
Sometimes I get, Miss Kelly, you're so fluffy.
Oh.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, in a good way, in a good
Yeah.
way. Yes.
we try to, I really, really, through my whole, I've been in pre-K for 13 years. I really want my kids to leave with somebody. I know they probably won't remember it, but maybe subconsciously in their brain, they remember that somebody told them they were really smart, that they can do whatever they want to do, that to have, good self esteem, and to be like, okay, Miss Kelly told me I could do this. And that's what then I can do it.
Mm,
That might be a little, I don't know, but that's my goal. I want them to leave with a big, with to know that they're important.
nice.
And I do that for, all my school babies. Like I get kind of mama bear. Like they're my kids.
That's so important, and especially at that little precious age, it is so important. Now, what advice do you give for listeners as far as how do you balance life? You've got your home life, and then somehow you write 40 books or so more, I don't know, and then you have incredible children and you're married. So how do you manage to structure or not structure all that? How does that all fit in?
Well, when I first started before the burnout happened, there's like pre 2016 and post 2016. Um, I used to write any chance I got, any second I was home. If the girls didn't need anything, I was writing. I had a notebook with me. If I was doing the dishes, and I would write, something down as quick as I could. Anything, to get anything down. And I'm really lucky that I can write sort of fast. I can do 2,000 words in 20 minutes,
Mm,
somewhere in there. So if I'm on a roll, I can get done. I just gotta have 20 minutes, which
Yeah.
is not easy. It's
Mhm.
not easy at all. So what I've started doing is I was having a harder time finding time to write lately. Between you, I always thought you have older kids, so I'm sure you will laugh at me. But I always thought when they got older, it would be easier to find time. No, which I appreciate because I know they're going to be gone soon. So anytime they want to come in,
Yeah.
I guess used to I would be like, Mama's busy, if they needed something. I mean, if it wasn't life or death or whatever, I would, get up and get it. But I'd be like, no, Mama's busy. Mama's got to write so many words. Mama's got to, do this. But now if they want to come in and they need a hug or they need to talk, I'm like, okay. So I just stop what I'm doing, which totally messes up the whole writing schedule. And they used to go to bed at 8 and now they stay up till I go to bed or even later. And I was like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So what I decided to do and what has really started working really well for me is there's a YouTuber, her name's Charlie, and it's a reader turned writer. And she had started writing first thing in the morning and only 30 minutes. Like she didn't do word count. I used to be really big on word counts. Like I had to write 2,000 words a day. I had to. So, or if I had a deadline, 5,000 words a day. And it didn't matter how long it took me to get it, I had to get it done. But she was like, so she just does 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay, I think I can do that. So I sit down, I get up, I get ready. And while the girls are getting ready, I sit at the computer or I write before they get up, which is actually when I can write more because, nobody needs mama right then. But writing those 30 minutes actually has got me more words recently than I did last year. And I write in the mornings, I get the 30 minutes in. That way I don't have to think about it the rest of the day. Last year, before I started doing this, I would be like, okay, I would wait till I got home from work
Yeah.
to write. Well, then, things happen. Or I'm getting older and the 4-year-olds stay 4. So
Yes.
by the time I get home, I'm so tired. So I would be taking naps and then I would miss my writing time and then I would feel bad I was missing my writing time. So if I get up at the same time. I
Mhm.
just don't do whatever I was doing before. I would read or watch YouTube or something. Now I write and that's my 30 minutes for the day. I don't have that guilt hanging over my head. And if I come home, and usually I do come home and write, then that's just extra bonus.
Mhm.
So that was a big thing that helped me. And also, I just started where I write down every task. I saw this in Elena Johnson's book, I think. You write down everything you have to do and then you mark it off. Like everything. Like today was like write, shower, work, supper, interview, things like that. And then you mark it off and you see actually how much time you have. Because if I'm like, okay, I need to write, I don't know, 3,000 words today, and be like, okay, I don't have a lot to do because if you look at my calendar, it's, just a one, this, but you have everything else you have to do too. So if you look at the big picture, you're like, okay, and it's easier to plan that way. And if you write on your to-do list to take a shower, you take a shower, you mark it off and feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
I
I'm
love to-do lists.
I will write something down on the list I forgot that I just did so I could check it off.
Yes, I do that.
It's
I
like
do that.
I did it. I need points for that.
I do that too.
It
So
just
much.
yes. And then I think I don't know for me as a parent I ran 5 gift stores and then at one point when that was kind of self-operating I became a teacher and so I enjoyed being around my kids at the same school. I don't know if you had that luxury or not.
Yeah.
It was really, yeah, that was really nice because then I knew who's playing with who, and all the kids would come to the house. And so it was really what I wanted to be able to be close with my family while still working. And
Yeah.
then to learn about being a teacher, and they got to learn about running gift stores and businesses, and we would just talk, and it would be like a fun project, educational. We would have fun with it, and that really made a difference for my kids growing up. And then when they grew up, it was like, oh, now what do I do? And I actually wrote a whole book about a chapter in my book about parenting, and then how
Yeah.
at some point, if you do your job right, you lose the job of parenting the way it was, and there's this whole new relationship that happens.
Yeah.
And so these are precious moments that you get to spend with your kids. Now, do you have little writers in your family?
My middle daughter, actually, she just signed up for high school Tuesday, and she's taking a creative writing class, and I didn't know she was going to do it, and I took her to sign up, and she was like, I think I'm going to take creative writing. She told the lady, and I was sitting there like, I had my mask on, but I was trying not to
Uh,
show too much. And we were walking around the halls. I was like, I can't believe you took creative writing. She's like, well, it sounded interesting. I was so excited.
yes, yes.
I don't know how your kids were, but my kids, I mean, they knew, you're just mama. So they knew I was a teacher, and they knew I was a writer, and they saw books with my name on it, and they saw them in bookstores and whatever. And that wasn't as exciting. But when Fake Nora was in a puzzle, when it came to my house as a puzzle, like my girls were so excited. They're like, Mama's got merch. I'm like, well, that's what made them excited.
Yes, isn't that great? And it's just part of when we share our talents and our essence and truth with our children, they're free to share theirs.
Oh
And
yeah.
that really helps when they're growing up to do whatever they do. I always supported my children in whatever they loved.
Yeah.
It may not have been what I wanted, but that's okay because I have my life. They get to live theirs, and they all ended up growing up doing what they loved, living their passion and their truth. And I mean, my daughter studying psychology, she would bring the kids home, or she would tell me, Mom, this girl is cutting. We need an intervention.
Oh.
Happened, and she would bring these kids, oh, this is terrible, what's going on in the house, there's all this beating up and we need to help. I mean, and she didn't bring
Oh.
kids, she brought children, and this is her passion.
Yeah.
And now she works at a foster home for young pregnant moms and their babies they're in placement, they're in foster care at a big,
Oh.
and so that's what she does. And she probably looks 15. She's 25. She looks really young. She doesn't do a lot of makeup and all that. And she's been there like 3.5 years, still going to school for her, you have to get like a PhD to get your licensing.
Yeah.
And she loves it. That's just her thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
And it was good because you got to encourage her for that when she was younger.
yes, yes. And we would do the interventions, and I don't know how many little young adults' lives she saved just with that,
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
That is really good.
So for those listening in, I'd love for you to share, where can people reach you? How can they read the books or get the books for their families?
All of my books are on my website at kellymartinbooks.com. All of my books are on Amazon. Some of them from the publishers. I'm a hybrid author, so some are Indian, some are traditional. The traditional most of them are wide. So they'll be on Barnes and Noble or Kobo or Google Play or the Apple Store, right? Yes. But they're all on Amazon. And I do have some paperbacks on Amazon too, and some hardcovers. But definitely, if you're interested, it would be kellymartinbooks.com. Everything is there.
Perfect. That's wonderful. Well, thank you for being a guest on the show. I look forward to reading and sharing all your books with my kids and grandkids now.
Oh, yay.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much.
And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages.